Hello, everybody. It's Liam. I am hopping on right before your regularly scheduled episode to say thank you. That's because over the last month on this podcast, we have absolutely shattered records and numbers like beyond my wildest dreams and, craziest imaginations for this podcast. And it's all really thanks to you guys. So let me just read a couple of numbers for you all so you guys can get a really good understanding of, exactly what I'm talking about here. So between May and June, we nearly doubled our average monthly listeners. We took it from about 700 monthly listeners to nearly 1,400. Again, all within a month. And on our social media pages, man, you guys absolutely shattered those numbers like by a long shot. We increased our monthly reach on our social media pages by, get this, guys, 500%. That's nearly 35,000 new people who have seen our posts, seen those stories that we have shared with you all and, got involved in what you all have been involved in for nearly 6 months now. And so, I just have to say thank you all for listening, for supporting this podcast, for telling your friends about this podcast, for caring about the stories that we're telling you all about, for caring about the people who are involved. It means absolutely everything to me, and I know it means absolutely everything to the people who are deeply and intricately connected to the cases that we've shared with you all. And I just have to say that we are just getting started on this podcast. We have so many more great stories to tell you all about, so much more good to do. And we were able to do that all because of you guys. And I cannot say how grateful and thankful I am enough. I started this podcast just as, a good idea to hopefully, get some stories out there that I knew weren't getting enough traction. And it just means the world to me that you guys are all getting involved and investing yourselves into these stories just as much as I have. And so I have a great story to tell you all about right now. So let's get going. And here is your regularly scheduled episode of Crime Over Wine. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 25th episode of Crime Over Wine, the only podcast with head-scratching true crime stories that are just better over a bottle of wine. I'm your host, Liam Collins, and this week, my guest co-host is one of my former bosses from back in the day. She is the queen of New Jersey, so Teresa Giudice, you better watch out. She is Jackie Bardick. Hello, Jackie. How are you?
Hi, Liam. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. It's so good to see you. So Jackie and I first met like 10 years ago. Is that right? I'm doing that math correctly. I think it was like 10 years ago, Jackie. And she was my manager at Journeys in Danbury, Connecticut, back when I was back in high school, and I was grinding on that part-time job. Jackie was my boss, but we quickly became like besties too, like in a way. And like, here we are, right? So
yeah, Liam was always the best to work with. I'm so excited that we kept in touch after all this time.
Yay. Well, just blowing up my spot. Love that. So, one of the things I was realizing, I was like, you know what? I don't think in fact, I know Jackie and I never just sat around and drank a glass of wine together. And so I am so excited to finally be able to do that on this podcast.
Same. Yeah, you were not of age, legal drinking age when we worked together. So happy 21st. It's long overdue.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Very, very true. Okay. Well, on that note, let's just bust it open. I'm so excited for this. So this week we are drinking Yes Way Rosé. It's a classic dry rosé from the south of France, light-bodied with a bright, vibrant finish. What a way to describe that. Right? I was having so much fun reading that. That was so fun. So bright, vibrant finish. I'm really excited to see what that's all about.
I am too. Honestly, I'm such a sucker for packaging, and I went into the store and I saw this bottle and I was like, this is absolutely something that I would have bought myself even without your direction.
That's so true. So yeah, just for for reference, so the Yes Way Rosé definitely gives millennial kind of rosé bottle packaging, all that stuff. And then it's rose pink, like at the top too, like the cap too. So this is definitely giving rosé all day for sure.
The bottle jumped out at me off the shelf. Super cute.
Yeah, super cute. Well, cheers to you, Jackie. So good to see you.
Cheers.
Oh, we have the same glass too, kind of almost. Oh, yours is like designed.
Mine says that's what I do. I drink and I know things. Game of Thrones.
You know, I never got into Game of Thrones like at all.
It's one of those shows that I like resisted for a while because there was so much talk about it. Like I wanted to push back, and then once I watched it, I'm like, oh, it really is good.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Yeah, I was the same way with The Office. I never watched The Office until it was like long over and like on Netflix and stuff. And then I started watching it and I was like, oh, this is why everyone talked about how great this show was, because it's really funny.
Yeah, there's so many shows like that for me.
Yeah.
I never like really delved into The Office, but I've watched some episodes and like I get it. I'm still resisting.
Listen, I love The Office more than like literally anything in the entire world. Like I could go back and watch any episode and laugh just as hard as the first time I did it if I was watching it the 20th time. Like it's just one of those shows for me.
God, love some Michael Scott.
Yeah. Oh, you have to. You have to appreciate some Michael Scott. You also have to appreciate this wine. I do feel like so light-bodied is a great way to describe this. It's very light going off the tongue for sure, which I like in a rosé, which I really, really like in a rosé.
Yeah, you know what? I know you're a red wine guy, and you sent me to the liquor store to buy rosé, and I was super confused. But this is like, this is my jam. I like a dry white or pink wine. This is absolutely perfect. We'll buy this again.
It is definitely one of the driest rosés I've ever had in my entire life too, which is one of the reasons why I typically try to stay away from rosés, because I feel like the majority of them are pretty sweet. But this is a very dry, light. A bright, vibrant finish is like actually a great way to describe it. So it also has notes of strawberry, citrus, and white peach. So there you go. I definitely get that strawberry for sure. The white peach too. Citrus, I don't really get. I feel like citrus is a bit of a bolder flavor than what I'm getting here.
It's so funny because it doesn't say that on my bottle.
Really?
Yeah.
On the back?
No, it doesn't say that.
What? That's so weird.
Right? Mine doesn't say literally anything. Anything about any flavors.
Wait, what does it say? It doesn't say anything?
No, it says, this modern and refreshing dry rosé made in the south of France comes to you from Erica and Nikki, best friends on a mission to make quality rosé that's full of personality.
Oh, wow.
Only 1 gram of sugar. Typical warnings, how much alcohol. Literally doesn't say anything about like flavors, notes, anything like that. It's weird.
That is really weird. I wonder if that has something to do with like where it's made, or like maybe they were just like, hey, let's just like change the label.
Yeah, it could be. Wait, what year is yours? Now I'm curious.
Oh, it is 2022.
Oh, mine's 2021. Maybe that's why.
Oh, yeah, maybe them to change the label. So there you go. First mystery solved of the day.
There we go. Look at us go.
We look at us go. We do have a second one to get to, though. As much as I would love to sit here and talk about wine with you, we have a lot to talk about here. So
yes, we do. I sure am.
So, Jackie, this week I have to tell you a story that truly chills me, and I think it will chill you too. A young, innocent boy was brutally murdered, and for decades, we had no idea who he was. Until recently, just within the last few months, police have finally been able to put a name to his face. This week, Jackie, I want to tell you the story of Joseph Zarelli, the boy in the box. Before I begin, I do feel the need to say that this story involves pretty severe violence to children, and we're going to go into pretty, intimate detail. And so if that's not usually the kind of story you like to listen to, I would suggest skipping this week. But I would really recommend all of my Northeast listeners, especially those who have ties to the Philadelphia, New Jersey area, to listen to this story, because we still have a lot of questions that we need to be answered. And you or someone you know and love may be unknowingly holding on to a vital clue. We're beginning this week in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on February 23rd, 1957. A hunter is traversing through the thick woods off of an isolated remote road when he sees something really peculiar. It's a piece of trash, a box a bit bigger than a shoebox. And so he takes a closer look at what he discovered, and inside the box is something truly unmistakable. It's the deceased body of a young boy, and he is in rough shape. The boy is naked, no children's clothing anywhere in sight. He had bruises all over his body and face. The medical examiner would later say it was evidence of repeated and extensive physical abuse. He had cuts and scars, specifically ones on his ankle, groin, and an L-shaped one on his chin. The boy is wrapped in a flannel, multicolored blanket and appeared to be freshly groomed, but poorly. He was pretty clean, but he looked like he had a recent haircut that was really crudely done and badly cut fingernails, too. The medical examiner believes that the haircut and fingernail trimming possibly could have been done after this young boy had already been dead.
As a mom, this is like horrifying to listen to. Why would you cut their fingernails and like clean them up after you could have done something that horrific to them?
Yeah, that's and like again, so like they're saying that like I guess the medical examiner is saying that it's possible that that's all could have happened afterwards, but it also could have been happened like right before kind of thing. So I mean, but point being is like they clearly like tried but failed to take care of them in some sort of way. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they were trying to, you know, trim up their fingernails, but like they do it badly. And like, you know, then I guess afterwards, like, you know, beat them because you did it badly or something. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where my mind goes. But I mean, you're right. I can't imagine, you know, again, being in your shoes, being a mom and like hearing about this. It's just, ugh.
Yeah, honestly, like terrifying.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because this hunter does not call this discovery into the police. He had muskrat traps with him, and they were, I guess, illegal at the time, and he was afraid they would be confiscated by the police if they came out there, which, to be clear, is the stupidest fucking reason I've ever heard not to call police about anything, let alone a dead toddler. But, like, okay, glad you got to keep your muskrats, buddy.
Yeah, nobody cares about your muskrats. There's a dead kid outside.
Cares about your freaking muskrats. Yeah.
I never understand why people think that just because they're doing something that's like illegal that everyone's gonna care when there's something that's so much worse happening. Like, just do the right thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Show that you're a good person, and they'll, you know, not care about your muskrats, dude.
Yeah, like police are gonna really come all the way out there to call of a dead boy, and they're gonna be like, okay, cool, but this guy's got some muskrat traps. Like, let's go after the real problem in this city.
Priorities.
Like, yeah,
priorities.
Okay, yeah, the priorities. Yeah, man, that. But like to your point though, like why? Like it just makes me so mad in general when like you hear these stories and they're just like, you know, oh, but like they could have gotten it, but the only person who heard them scream like didn't call police, and it's like. Well, okay, like, to be clear, like, if I hear, like, a weird knock at the door, like, I'm calling the cops. Like, I don't understand these people who don't do that.
Same. I see somebody, like, run past my house, and I'm like, what are they running from? Like, who am I to call? Like,
right.
You never know.
Yeah, it's also, too, like, the other part of my brain is, like, I really want to be at, you know, these people's levels of just, like, pure bliss and pure, like, non-anxiety in their worlds, because, like, my anxious brain can't handle that like at all. I would never be able to forgive myself.
No, but we listen to true crime and talk about true crime too much to not be like paranoid and thinking the worst.
True.
Which is why I also need wine.
Yeah, very, very true. Yeah, that's why I drink, and that's why I watch true crime docs like every single day. So
absolutely, Liam. Exactly that.
Well, it's not totally clear from my research how police even like know about this guy, but I'm assuming he called it in much later on, like after police were asking for information, maybe as like a, hey, just so you know, like you may find my footprints or DNA or something out there, but like just so you know, I'm totally innocent kind of thing. I don't know. But like whatever, that's the last time we hear from this guy, like good riddance as far as I'm concerned. But luckily for literally everyone except for our next character, 2 days later, a student at LaSalle College is driving when he sees a rabbit running into an underbrush. And he, I guess, knows this area pretty well and knows that there are traps around. He luckily decides to save the rabbit. So he parks his car and goes searching through the brush when he finds that JCPenney box, peeks inside and sees the boy's lifeless body. And so I guess people are like particularly nervous about the police in Philadelphia around this time because he says even he was also initially reluctant to call about his discovery, but eventually it does after he heard about the disappearance of Mary Jane Barker, who was another toddler who had recently went missing in Belmar, New Jersey.
I don't know anything about that other case, and I've lived here my entire life. I don't know who Mary Jane Barker is.
Yeah, so it like again like deserves its own episode kind of thing. But like basically she went missing for a couple of days and then was found in like like locked in a closet in like a vacant home. And they found that she died because she had starved to death because she got locked in there. So
all of these people who are torturing children have like a special place in hell. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, they discovered with her, they discovered that she like wandered into the house and like locked herself in the closet. Like she couldn't get out of the closet. So this was like total freak accident.
Okay.
But they did investigate it for a really long time as like a really like mysterious death kind of thing. But they determined that nobody was involved.
Okay, still super sad, but like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Point being is like I don't understand like why people are not calling police about dead kids. Like I really call the police. Like this is a PSA to everyone out there. If you find a dead child in the woods, call 911.
A dead human in the woods, like nobody cares that you're smoking a little weed or like, you know, out there for whatever reasons, like there's a dead body and like that definitely takes priority over whatever you're doing.
for real. And like also I think notable, I guess, so, you know, like this was again 1957 and so like they had to go home and like or go to find a payphone to like go go call police. So like it's not like, you know, today like you can call 911 right then and there, but like so I guess I don't know, but that like, even makes me like wonder even more because it's like you can go home like get like Hunter dude, like you can go home, get rid of your freaking muskrats and like, you know, and then call police. Like why did that not happen? Anyways, I'll never get over that freaking muskrat dude. Like I'm
100%. Like I feel like the fact that they don't have cell phones and are wandering through like the woods and they find a dead body and they just like hang out there and collect muskrats. Like no, like I would be running for the hills back to my landline phone to call somebody because like. What if the person is still out there? Yeah.
Oh, right. I didn't even think about that. Very, very true. But like, also too, from like this muskrat dude's perspective, I'm like I am thinking, like I just am wondering, like from a police mind, like you look at dude who didn't call police, planting muskrats, kind of dumb, like is that like I wonder how much they looked into him, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is like a potential suspect.
I was there, I didn't call you, but like I'm totally innocent.
Yeah, but just so you know, I'm like we're good.
Yeah,
we're good.
I was there, I was just collecting my muskrats, like
just don't look in my muskrat closet.
You don't bother me, I won't bother you.
What the hell even is a muskrat? I'm looking up what a muskrat even looks like. I don't even know what oh god. Oh, it's like a little beaver thing.
Okay, well, I mean, funny enough, I'm actually like recording this right now in my ferret's bedroom. And you look like you're sitting in a closet, so...
I am.
I'm even more annoyed right now that this guy's, like, collecting muskrats, like, in the woods. Like, is he hurting them? Because, like, I love all the animals.
Let's get back to this case. So police finally go out to the scene 3 days after that dumb freaking Hunter, who I'm never going to get over, initially found this young boy's dead body. The medical examiner estimates that the boy is between the ages of 4 and 6 and had died anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks before he was found. The boy had blue eyes, is about 30 pounds, and almost 3.5 feet tall. The medical examiner again says that the boy looked like he had suffered from severe physical abuse, but most of the cuts that we talked about before were likely surgical. The boy was severely malnourished and had a subdural hemorrhage, or bleeding between the brain and the skull, and pleural effusions, a buildup of fluid between the layers of tissue that line the lungs and the chest cavity. The medical examiner said he likely died from multiple blows to the head, a homicide.
That is crazy. That kid is the size of my son right now. Like, I can't even imagine how you can hurt something that is so, like, innocent and helpless.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild to me.
Yeah, and do it over and over and over and over and over again, too.
Yeah, what did this kid go through for 3-4 years?
Yeah.
That doesn't just start one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what kind of gets me, and, like, we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, but, like, how, like, the age that this happened, like, at the time it happened, and, like, I guess I like based on like what we know so far, like I guess I could like see a world where like a really sick human being like does this to like an infant kind of thing, but like to do this to like 4 years later, like that's what, not that it makes it any worse or better, but like it's just like, you know, it just again kind of what you're talking about, like makes me wonder like what he was going through for like his entire life, if this is what he's going through at 4 years old.
Yeah, listen, like I'm like the realest of moms ever. Like I will tell you, like my kid drives me crazy sometimes. He like they do stupid things, you get really annoyed, but like to like not feed your kid and like to to like abuse your kid in that kind of way. Like, I'll sit here all day and I'll be like, that was stupid. Like, this kid's pissing me off right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll be upfront about that, but like, just, I don't know, like hitting your child, like, I don't know, not feeding them, like locking them somewhere. Like, I can't even imagine. Like,
well, despite exhaustive efforts, investigators are not able to determine who this young boy is. Police take fingerprints, but they don't match back to anyone in their systems, and they are even able to trace back that box that he was found in, and were able to tie it back to being bought at a JC's Penney store in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, just about 45 minutes away from where this young boy's body was found. Police found that the box housed a white bassinet before it became the final resting place for our young boy. In their efforts to find the boy's name, police found that there were 12 of these bassinets that were sold at this store. They were able to trace back and rule out the buyers of every single one of those bassinets except for one. They could never figure out who ended up buying that 12th bassinet.
That kills me. Like, is that really the break that we never got?
Yeah, possibly. Isn't that, and you know, that's because, like, I'm also wondering too, like, so this is like the 1950s, like, they couldn't have kept like that great of records, and like you're able to still trace back 11 of them. Like, that's kind of cool if you're being completely honest. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I'm sure that they were like, it was literally in a notebook somewhere, you know?
Yeah, well, I remember, oh my God, I don't want to like age myself here, but like at one time, like when your credit card machines were down, you'd have to like do this weird thing where you like imprint the card. And yeah.
Right.
Like, I remember doing that like in my early retail days when our systems would go down. Like, that was the way that you like processed cards once upon a time. So maybe 11 of those people used credit and one person paid cash.
One used cash. Yeah,
true. It's even like to this day, like a lot of people don't use cash, and that one person who does, like, you can't trace.
Yeah, and I'm also like wondering like when it was bought too. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, does it like line up? Like, did they just buy the box because it was like just about as big as a young boy's body kind of thing?
Maybe.
Or did they just like have it sitting around?
I mean, for it to come down to like 12 purchases, like usually you hear stories like this and it's like, they sold 300 of these things at Walmart,
right?
And like, you know what I mean, or 3,000. But for it to be like 12 items, like, how do you not?
Yeah, like they're looking for like a red pickup truck, and they're like, okay, well, there are only 12,846 pickup trucks sold, and you know, so yeah, totally, yeah, that is so true though, and like the fact that, you know, we're like it does feel like right there, right?
12 bassinets. I got to be able to find all 12 of these people. Like, what?
Yeah. Right, exactly. Well, the case enthralled so many people across the area and the country too, who just could not believe that no one had come forward to identify this beautiful young child. He became known as America's unknown child, a true testament to the number of hearts this young child's death had broken. Police were initially hopeful that they could identify him because of the attention he had received, but no one ever came forward with any sort of useful information until they finally got a pretty good tip from a bit of an unconventional source. The initial days in the search for the boy in the box's name and killer bring up no real leads. Investigators left him in the morgue for days, allowing visitors from at least 10 different states to come and see him, including people with close connections to young missing boys in the area who were hopeful they could see some identifying mark that would point them to an identity, but none ever came. Meanwhile, police were combing through the crime scene, looking for anything that could even produce even the remote possibility of a lead. Almost 300 officers searched through every single square inch of those woods and did find a man's blue corduroy hat that was traced back to being purchased at a store in South Philadelphia, a child's scarf, and a man's white handkerchief with the letter G embroidered in the corner. Police were also circulating tens of thousands of flyers on telephone poles and in door-to-door canvases, even sending them out with every gas bill in the city. They mainly included the same 3 front and profile autopsy shots of this boy, but But in one round of posters, police also circulated an orchestrated photo of the boy where they dressed him up and sat him in a chair, hoping to jog some memories for people of what he may have looked like when he was still alive. And Jackie, this is like way too creepy. Like, I just have to show you and, share some of the nightmares that I'm going to have forever. So I'm saying this to you right now.
I'm so scared. I don't want to see this.
You should be.
This is like the actual body of this kid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this. Oh my God. Why would they do that? Like that, I'm sorry, but like looking at that picture, I would not recognize anything about that. That is just like morbid, honestly.
Yeah, I don't understand why they think this is going to help. Yeah, I mean, I know it's like a low quality photo, like, because it's like from the 50s, so like, sure, but like, it's still also like so like unspecific. I'm like, who's gonna see that and be like, oh yeah, I think that's my kid actually. You know what I mean?
Nobody. Like, I feel like sketches would be a little more effective and like less traumatic.
Yeah, and it's like also too, like, I'm sorry, but like this is like the other part of my brain goes like if I just like got this, like if I was like coming home, went to my mailbox and like saw this came home and like saw this flyer, like opened up the flyer and this was the picture, I would be terrified. Like I would honestly take that as a threat, if we're being honest. Like I would be like I would I would be like, do
you know this child? Yeah. Like, no.
No? Like, okay, well, you're going to. You're like, that's how I take it. Oh, my God. But yeah, I mean, it just, like, look, I'm not going to put this on my website. I'm not putting this anywhere out there for anyone who listens to this podcast to see. But it is out there. You can definitely go see it. You can see what I'm talking about. It's definitely giving, like, The Shining kind of deal.
Yeah, I'm like, are you sure you didn't go on the dark web to find that? Because, like, I feel like that's not readily available.
No, it's out there. It's definitely out there, unfortunately. So everyone has to see it.
I might need something more than wine after looking at that picture.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if a bottle of wine's enough.
Well, maybe we can do some tequila shots after this, but, like, like different podcasts.
Okay. I'm there for that one, too.
Okay, cool. Well, obviously there were never any good leads about who this young boy truly was from these posters. One of the medical examiners on the case, however, was particularly invested in finding out this young boy's name and background and hopefully his killer. And, very easy to see that if you're a medical examiner, seeing this young boy's body murdered, beaten, you get invested. The examiner hired a psychic after what seemed like all scientific and investigative avenues were exhausted, and the psychic gives him a pretty significant amount of detail into who this young boy is actually. The psychic tells the ME that the boy was a foster child at a foster home that was housed in a mansion that was just a mile and a half from where the boy's body was found.
Did police already know about this foster home?
Well, actually, they did. Investigators had already interviewed the owners of the home previously, but ended up moving on. But the ME latched onto this tip from the psychic. He goes back to speak with the family, looks back at old interviews, and even got in contact with the child who had stayed at the home. But one day, the medical examiner sees that the couple was moving from the home and having an estate sale, and so he decides to drop by and is looking through the house at all these items on sale when he sees exactly the clue that he had been searching for. A white bassinet, just like the one that would have been originally housed in the box where our young boy was found.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to be that, like, skeptic person who, like, craps on all the psychics out there, but I just instantly think to, like, Sylvia Brown, like the lady on Maury, who like just BS people and been like, oh, your daughter is she's alive, she's like right here. Like, I don't know, I do feel like there are some people out there who have some type of connection and have some like truth, but every time I hear this about like a homicide case, I like cringe so much.
Side eye hard.
Yeah, like, why are we relying on this stuff?
Yeah, Yeah, that is kind of like the other part of where my brain goes to is like, okay, like if you are, I would imagine that there's like the type of people in the world who go into police work, who go into, medical examination, like you probably, hopefully anyways, rely pretty heavily on science, right? And so it just feels weird to have to go to that place. I don't know. I guess you'd probably do get to a certain point where it's like, okay, well, what does it hurt if I go here? And like, worst case scenario, like I waste a couple $100 or whatever. But I don't know. It still feels like a little, because it feels like those people come out of the woodwork. You know what I mean? Like they'll say whatever they want just to get your money. Like a scammer. Will say what. And I feel like that invites that kind of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it really feels like you have to be at your breaking point. Like you have no other leads when you take that route on, and this just feels really early on. Yeah. To be going there, like
yeah. And I'm not totally sure exactly what year this happened. Like you'll see in a second, like we're about to skip like 40 years. So like it probably happened like somewhere within that time frame. But I don't know. It evidently it got to the point where like the medical examiner was like, the police aren't digging anything up. No one else is coming forward. Let me just go to a psychic. Like, why the heck not?
Okay, cool. So they show up and there's a white bassinet. So I'm hoping that it's real. Let me get some more wine in me before I hear the next step.
Well, but also just to be clear, so like with the psychic, right? So like I'm like side-eyeing that hard, but then like you like all these other things seem to make sense. You know what I mean? If there's a foster home right there, that like if it's in like this mansion kind of thing, like maybe you don't really know that it exists. You know what I mean? Probably, maybe, I don't know. But like also too, so then he searches through the house and finds the exact white bassinet. Like that is, and I'm also wondering if this is the white bassinet that could be traced. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's where my brain goes to.
Yes.
And so like point being is like it starts off very weird, but then it gets like all those boxes are checked. Like it seems like it lines up very well.
Yeah, that's the missing bassinet that came from the box.
Right.
Maybe.
But then also, so this is like the wine talking for sure, but it also makes me wonder too, like how much did these people look into the psychic? Like that's just always where my mind goes. Cause again, if you're like relying so much into science, right. But you would imagine that type of person would be like, no, there's no way you could just like know this stuff. Like you must have intimate knowledge of this case. And the only way you have intimate knowledge of this case is if you killed him.
Honestly, I didn't even think about that, but you hear all the time about the person who inserts themselves in the case to like not be...
Exactly.
Yeah, like they don't want to be obvious. So they put themselves up at the forefront of like, oh yeah, that guy's super weird, or like, oh, I saw her or whatever. And if I put myself at the forefront, I'm like the good guy who's trying to provide info, and like they're not going to look at me. Like, no, like we need to look at those people first.
Yeah. So the ME fuels his own theory about this family. He says he believes that the young boy belonged to the man's stepdaughter, who got rid of the boy because she didn't want to be found out as an unwed mother. But that lead didn't really generate any teeth because detectives closed the investigation into this couple for good once they're able to rule them out for a few reasons, but the main one being that all of the foster children who have ever been at the home were indeed accounted for.
I mean, it started off pretty strong because like I do get that back in those days it was different, and like being an unwed mother like was just not acceptable. So
totally wrong.
Yeah, like you couldn't do that. So I don't know.
And it also like everything else seems to check out too, with the psychic pointing them right in that direction, like the white bassinet. Like it just feels like that feels like the immediate answer. And like, it would make sense too, also why, like all these years later, like the parents never came forward, right? Because like, I can't imagine, again, like my two options at this point in this investigation are that the parents either did it, right? Because otherwise, why wouldn't you come forward if you truly had nothing to do with it? Like, why wouldn't you have ID'd your kid, or at least reported him missing at this point? And then my second theory is foster home, right? Because, that would also explain why the parents parents didn't come forward because the parents aren't in this kid's lives. I literally can't rack my brain into any other explanation that wouldn't result in some sort of missing persons report or something. And so it all does seem to make a good amount of sense. And I don't buy like the fact that like every other child was accounted for, so therefore like they're okay, because it's like, again, we're talking about 1950s, like there are no computers, and so like how are you keeping track of these things, like, you know what I mean, like on your little notepad, and like you know, like you're telling me you couldn't just like erase that real quick? Like I don't buy that at all. Like that excuse does not hold up for me.
Yeah, 100%. Like, this kid lived with somebody, whether it was their biological parents, foster parents, like a grandparents, like somebody had ownership of this kid and like did it or knows what happened to them, and
or at least knows that he's missing, right?
Yeah, like somebody knows something. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know, like it's so crazy to me. Like, these foster parents definitely seem sketchy, suspicious, to say the least. But I agree with you. Like, how do you say everybody's accounted for? Like, who is everybody? Like,
yeah, right. Right.
How many? Like, what is the paperwork at this time?
And how do I trust that what you're telling me is actually true?
Yeah.
And also, so if we can go back to this like stepdaughter here for a second too, because I don't see how this theory makes any sense either. Because and here's why. Because the stepdaughter, like, so if the reason that she got rid of this kid was because she was an unwed mother, like didn't want anything to do with that, like didn't want people to find out that she, you know, had a kid. Why would she wait 4 years to do that too? That's my other question. Like, if you didn't want anyone to find out that you were an unwed mother, wouldn't you get rid of it, you know, right at birth? Like, I don't understand why you waited. Like, what happened in those 4 years?
No, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the whole point is that you don't want anyone to know that you are pregnant when you aren't married. So, like, having the child for a day even defeats that purpose.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, unless like you like lock it in a, like if it was malnourished, right? Like lock it in a closet somewhere, like give it some carrots every once in a while, right? I mean, something like that.
I literally can't even like process. Like,
yeah. Let's not even go there actually, because I don't even.
No, it takes me back to like the Gabriel Fernandez case. Like, that like killed me, and I don't even know how I like delved into all of the details of it. Like, the cringe, like it just kills me to hear that somebody could bring a life into the world and then just
get rid of it. Yeah, man, I can't even, like, there are, like, needless to say, there are, like, endless possibilities, I feel like, to do this, but I do strongly believe that it ties back to either some sort of foster home, even if it's not that foster home, or this child's, like, biological parents in some way, shape, or form. Those are my two options.
100%. Somebody birthed this kid. Somebody, like, gave birth to this child, and then either heard it or gave it to somebody who heard it. Like, somebody has to know something. It just doesn't make sense.
Not enough wine in the world to make any sort of sense of this.
100%. Like, not enough anything to make it make sense. Like, gross.
Well, 5 months after the boy's lifeless body was found, tossed into the woods like a piece of trash, he was finally laid to rest with a tombstone that read, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy." And that's where he stayed for at least the next 40 years, until police decide that it's time to make a pretty bold move. How's this working for you, Jackie? I'm really thoroughly enjoying this rosé.
I am too. Honestly, like, if you look, like,
She said I'm really enjoying this bottle.
It's almost gone. I told you I'm a sucker for packaging. Like, I saw it in the liquor store. Like, it screamed my name, even though, like, I knew what I was looking for. Like, I feel like it would have screamed my name anyway. And in my head, I was like, I feel like I'm going to like this. I should get 2 bottles. And I didn't, because
tragic. Well, now you know where to get it, so
I do. I know exactly what liquor store sells it, so thank you, Liam, for the recommendation.
I am all about expanding the wine horizon, so that's what I'm here for. I will say I'm really enjoying the like, I'm usually like, I feel like I like bold reds and subtle whites and pinks. And so this is a very subtle pink for sure. So this, if that's kind of what you're, what you're aiming for in a rosé, this is definitely going to accomplish that for you, because I don't like rosés with too much fruit flavors. Like I'm not about that at all.
100%. Like I'm a dry white wine girl, like 90% of the year, unless it's like frozen cold outside, I might go for my red wine, but like dry white wine is definitely my jam, and this fits right in. Like I'm normally not a rosé girl, but I will buy this again.
No, I definitely like, now that we're getting into like summer, it's like, okay, time to let the rosé fly, you know what I mean? And like, Yes Way Rosé.
Yes, I was actually scared. I was like, he's gonna make me drink red wine in the middle of summer. Like I'm so scared for this. Like there's like a 1 month period that I drink red wine, and June is not it. So
I am a red wine all year round kind of girl. So we just we'll just have to buy 2 bottles the next time we hang out. You know what I mean?
That's fine. That's fine. Like as long as it's in the winter, like I'll do both. But like in the hot months, like dry white.
Just sum it all up, the very light wine. And in fact, it doesn't even really look too pink either, which is kind of interesting. Like the visuals of it.
Actually, wait, I'm curious. Like, I don't know if it's just my video to yours, because we have different years. Like, is mine more pink than yours? Because yours looks white.
Yours is definitely more pink than mine. That's so crazy.
Okay, so we have different years, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Because like we established that from the beginning. I don't know.
Yeah, they must have changed a lot, like in that year, I guess. So.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm digging it.
Hopefully it tastes the same and we're drinking the same thing, but if not, surprise!
Right. Surprise! All right, well, let's get back to the story because, man, this back half, crazy. Let's go for it. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. In February 1998, the boy in the box was exhumed for the purposes of extracting DNA.
Why did they decide to do that?
Well, this is right about when DNA starts to really change the game when it comes to criminal investigations, specifically with cold cases. To answer your question, a woman had claimed the body in the box was her son. And so police used this as an opportunity to exhume him, to get DNA to see if she is right. They extract a sample from one of his baby teeth and compare his sample to his supposed mother, and it was unfortunately not a match, though. But because they already have this DNA sample, they were able to put him into the CODIS system.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is how many years later, and you're like, oh, that might be my son?
Yeah, so true. Yeah, it's been like 40 years. Yeah, so, and I'm not sure who this woman is or how she thinks that he's her son somehow. I did kind of get the idea though that like it was like more so like because a lot of times with these situations, like just to give like a little bit of background for listeners, like you can't just like go around like digging up bodies. You can't just go around like tossing DNA around like it's nothing, you know what I mean? And so I think probably the purpose of this, I kind of got the idea that police kind of like use this woman as like, potentially as like a little bit like offbeat to say, okay, well, we need to dig up the body so that way they could get the funding to be able to take his DNA and put it into this system, because that was kind of around the time that they were like this is kind of changing everything. So
okay, I hope so.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
makes more sense.
How are you just like, oh,
right?
That could have been my kid that disappeared 40 years ago.
Right.
Like,
right.
Let's find out.
Yeah, a little bit. It makes me. Yeah, I hope she doesn't have any actual kids of her own, because they're definitely in a closet somewhere for sure. No pun intended. It's like
not like you and your dogs, obviously.
Yeah. Like we can get out of the closet whenever we want to.
Totally cared for, like so nourished. Yeah. Like I'm sure they have food and water. Like
there are snoozing right next to me, happiest dogs in the entire world.
So Liam's babies, 10 out of 10 would never hurt them. I know.
Yeah, 0%. Well, CODIS is, again, a game changer when it comes to criminal investigations. And this is really one of the first times I've mentioned it on this podcast. So, of course, I had to do a really deep dive for you all. So, Jackie, grab your glass, sit back, and listen to some CODIS. So, CODIS stands for Combined DNA index system, and it is basically this giant database of DNA samples. Police agencies all across the country have access to this database and can use it to enter perpetrators or victims to see if they have a match. And there has been a direct correlation between the number of samples added into the CODIS system and the number of agencies who have reported benefiting from the information in one way or another. The system holds more than 20.4 million samples of detainees and convicted inmates. This is a huge advancement for the investigative community because not only does this system search for exact matches, but it also searches for familial matches, allowing police to close in on someone at least within an immediate family to hone in their investigation. Moving throughout the years, cases would pop up left and right across the country with the headline of "Cold Case Solved Using DNA Testing," giving hundreds of families new closure when it felt as though they would never get it.
Yeah, this is like when I found out about this case. I mean, like, this is local to me, and I didn't know anything about it until they identified this child. And then I kind of delved in a little bit and found out some of the information, but it's just crazy. I mean, like, everyone's using Ancestry and all this, like, DNA genealogy type stuff, and realizing that they're related to a killer or somebody who's been, like, unsolved, missing.
Yeah. Man, yeah, what a wake-up call, right? I mean, yeah, put in everything, like, right into Ancestry DNA, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, like, that's, like, you know, but, like, a game, like, and I guess I should, like, differentiate a little bit here between, like, Ancestry DNA, because that, like, that's how, like, you know, apparently, I think, and I don't really know too much about this, like, speak confidently on it, but I do know that that was somehow involved in identifying the Golden Gate Killer, and so there's that, right? But then there's also these other public databases, too, that you can just submit your DNA to just to help out kind of thing. And that is, you know, publicly available information, you know, the investigators use it for whatever they want to do, versus these private things that, you know, police have, you know, been able to subpoena for records and that kind of thing.
Yeah, what is it? 23andMe, I think, is the one that, like, I'm not trying to, like, out it. I mean, but I think 23andMe, like, they're catching people like this off of.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
And thank God, like, I don't even want to, like, shout it out because, like, by all means, like, you're 23andMe and, like, maybe solve a case that you don't realize that you're related to the person.
Right.
But
well, yeah, and, you know, it's just because again, you know, it's one of those things that, like, you know, without this kind of information, like, there are so many, like, cases out there that, like, God knows what could happen. You know what I mean? And so I do think you know, it's a good advancement, but, like, kind of, again, I think kind of what you're hinting at there, it's, like, you know, a little, like sketchy of, like, okay, well, like, where's my DNA really going? Like,
did it end up helping in this case?
Well, it did, actually, but we'll get there a little bit later on, so hold that thought, Jackie. Police end up retaining portions of the child's remains for future testing, but by 2003, the case had really only remained open in name only. Police would only wipe the dust off of this case file whenever someone reached out to them with some kind of tip, no matter how big, small, or ludicrous. And that year, police end up getting another tip. It's from this woman who has only ever been identified as M. M claims that her mother is the one who killed the boy in the box back in 1957. Now, this story is a bit of a ride, so hang on, Jackie. I hope you have another glass of wine handy. This is how this story goes. She claims that in 1954, her mother bought the child from his birth parents in Cincinnati. Her mother was apparently heavily abusive and hit her kids on a regular basis, but the year leading up to this boy's death was apparently the worst of it, and it was only getting worse, too. She practically starved the boy every day, only giving him one meal per day. But the last straw for M's mom was apparently when the boy threw up a meal of baked beans, and she was furious about it. She started wailing on this young boy and brought him to the bathtub where she smashed his head against the tile floor over and over and over again until he died. All the while, M, who was just 13 at the time, was just sitting on the toilet watching it all happen. Afterwards, M says that her mother drove her to Philadelphia and disposed of the boy's body.
I'm sorry. She bought this child and then put him through that. Like, your kid throws up and you're furious and you're banging their head against... Like, what?
Yeah, I'm like sick to my stomach just even thinking about that.
It's a kid. Like, they literally don't know better. It's your responsibility to teach them, like, how to be, like, thriving, independent humans. Like, I can't even imagine. That's crazy.
And I never really read anything about, like, whether or not, like, she ever hit this M person. I never really read anything about that, but I can't imagine she didn't. You know?
Yeah, being 13 years old and, like, watching this, like, you're still a child at that point. Like,
yeah, the trauma. Yeah, for real.
Yeah, and you either become that or you really push yourself to stray from that. And either way, that's a difficult place to be in. So that's crazy.
Yeah, and I also think, like, regardless of whether or not, like, it's like this is the same young boy kind of thing, you know, you don't just make this kind of stuff up.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure even if it's not the same boy, like, we're still, like, there's possibly another child out there that did actually experience this.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. Like, if it's not this kid, who is it? Or did they make it up? Like, what does it take to make something like that up? I don't like that.
Well, you know, after almost 50 years of no answers in this case, police were eager to believe this story that seemed to line up fairly well, right? The injuries, the abuse, the reason why his parents weren't claiming him, that all makes a good amount of sense, right? Police drove to Cincinnati to meet with M, who told them the story again in an interview that ended up lasting more than 3 hours. When they return to Philadelphia, they start combing through the story, and if they are going to settle on this theory, they need to prove it after all of these years. The investigators who put hundreds of hours into this case have earned that. The boy in the box certainly deserved that too. But in all, they determined that M was not able to provide enough concrete details to substantiate the story. That said, she gave just enough to make it interesting, but not enough to the point that they could prove that what she was saying was at all true. Plus, M had apparently had a long history with mental disorders, and so they ultimately determined that she wasn't reliable enough for them to believe this story.
I'm still going to go back to the fact that, like, how do you make this up?
Yeah, I agree. There's something in there of her, like, that says that this happened to somebody.
Yes. You either saw this happen, you heard about this happening, like, I don't know, my wildest dreams couldn't create this story. Like, somebody did this, you know something about this. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And I'm also just, like, I don't know. I go to like the details do seem to make sense, right? Like the injuries were to the back of the head, so like surely if that's what was going on, those injuries match up to a good amount. And then if she says that they drove to Philadelphia to dispose of the body, like, I guess like that really only points to, like, you know, to this, right? I can't imagine there are a whole bunch of other kids around that, like, died in Philadelphia from this kind of injury.
Yeah, I would have hoped that they would have connected the dots and figured out if it was a different kid. Like,
by now, right? Yeah, I don't know. But then again, like, I'm also kind of like, okay, if she's really that kind of out there, and I believe I even read that she was in like a facility kind of thing. And so, like, then my other brain goes of like, okay, well, maybe she just saw it in a movie kind of thing and like kind of pieced it together, like saw it on the news, like kind of pieced it together. You know, maybe put in a little bit of what maybe happened to her, you know, and you know, into the stories. I feel like there are a lot of options, I feel like.
I guess, like, I would like to think that if it was a movie, everybody would have known and figured it out, or if it was a different case or something. But, like, in my head, I'm just like, this happened to someone. Something happened to someone that she knew. This M, like, she knows something.
Yeah, we do need to be looking for that too. Like, I feel like there are questions there that really need to be answered for
Yeah,
sure.
or
So,
to go back to what we were saying before, like people kind of insert themselves in things and bring things up. Like, I don't know.
yeah. So the case really went cold for a really long time. In 2016, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children releases a forensic facial reconstruction of the child. And here, Jackie, I'm going to send that one to you too if you want to see that.
That, like, I want to say that doesn't look like the same kid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I get that the facial reconstructions, like, it can't be easy by any means, but like...
Well, so the picture on the left you're looking at is obviously not, like, that's like a done-up picture of him, right? Like, that's obviously not from when they found him.
Yeah, but, like, the eyes of that kid, like, I don't know. That
doesn't look right. Yeah, and, like, also the picture on the right, like, kind of looks creepy. Like, looks like...
The one on the left looks like a real kid. Like, the one on the right is, like...
Looks like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also is, like, so nondescript at the same time. I'm like, that could literally be any blonde child.
Yes.
Like, I don't really know. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know what to do with any of this. I don't know what to do with any of this, honestly.
No, I'm, like, not thrilled with the picture of the kid. Like, I don't know. I go back to the, like, sketches that you see in, like, different homicide cases, and, like, sometimes they're awful. Sometimes they turn out to be, like, so bad compared to what the person looks like, but I don't know, like, that one just kind of gives me, like, the heebie-jeebies. Like, it's going to not look like the actual person. Like, somebody could have done better, I hope.
Yeah, I agree. And, like, again, we're going to link to all this on our website so you can, like, see all of this for yourself. Well, just 3 years later and more than 60 years after the boy's murder, police begin to let on some hope that they may be able to finally make some real progress, because they make another move that ends up paying dividends. In 2019, police exhumed the boy's body again in the hope that they can salvage even more DNA and possibly get an identification this time.
I hope they did.
Well, and, like, you know, so just, like, pausing here, only so, like, we've talked to, like, because I, like, have done so many episodes about, you know, of cases where they exhume the body, and every time I'm like, this is so rare, they never do that, but, like, yet I've done in, like, probably, like, half my cases. Like, I just want to reiterate again, like, this is a very rare thing to do once, like, let alone twice, and so, like, again, like, you must be, like, so positive that, like, you have to dig up the body in order to get this kind of information that you need to get some sort of answer here.
Yeah, well, you cover the stuff that, like, it seems like there's an answer, and it's like the head scratching, like, how is this not solved kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it's rare that they exhume a body, but, like, they have to have a reason to do that. Like, they have to feel like there's something to uncover.
Yeah. Well, and not only do they have to have a reason to do it, they have to convince a judge that there's, like, a really good reason to do it. Because, like, a judge is the only person that can say this, you can exhume this body. It's not just like, you know, you come to an agreement with the family, which, like, obviously in this case there is none. Like, you have to go through a whole court system process to be able to get permission to do this. And so to get that kind of permission, not once but twice, like, they're onto something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they feel like there's something weird happening, and they have an idea of who did it or what happened or something.
Well, so this time they exhume this boy's body because DNA technology had made leaps and bounds. This was 1 year after the Golden Gate Killer was arrested, who was infamously identified using genetic genealogy testing. And this arrest was monumental in the investigative world too, specifically for investigators who had spent countless nights combing through the same pages of the same cold cases over and over and over again, hoping to shake something loose to no avail. This appeared to be the same thinking in Philadelphia. If it can work in the Golden Gate Killer case, maybe it can help them identify their child Doe. Detectives described to CBS Philadelphia that this DNA was like confetti, and you had to piece together all of these different fragments like a Sudoku puzzle to get even one clean sample. So you can imagine that this is likely going to take some time to get it done. But guess what, Jackie? It worked. In November 2022, police let on that they have been able to identify the boy in the box using DNA and genealogical databases.
I'm sorry. I just can't. Like, the amount of cases that have been solved through doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that they found something for this child. How did they do it?
Well, in one way or another, our boy Doe's cousin uploaded their DNA to a public database, and when police got that hit, they saw that there was a familial connection between them and the boy in the box. Somehow they were able to determine that the connection was maternal, and they find that that person's mom and ask them to submit DNA too, since they would have been a first cousin to our little boy. Through that test, police were able to find the child's birth mother and got a court order for a birth certificate, which showed one child who matched the age range of our boy in the box. On December 8th, 2022, police announced publicly that the boy in the box finally has a name. He is Joseph Augustus Zarelli. He was 4 years old when he died, and he is the child of Augustus John Zarelli and Mary Elizabeth Plunkett, who are both dead at this point. But the testing discovered that the boy still had half-siblings who are still alive.
That's so crazy. So they didn't, report that their child was missing. So, who had this child the entire time is, where my brain goes back to. And
yeah.
I don't know, I've read into this case enough that I know that all of these people, didn't know that they had this child, related to them. This is just, such a mystery for all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so true. It does make me wonder, the fact that they have two different last names, kind of makes me wonder if, clearly they weren't married, right? Presumably, anyways. And so, my mind then goes to, okay, well, maybe it was some sort of affair, that it was some sort of thing out of wedlock kind of thing, and, super taboo in the 50s, right? And so, evidently maybe there was some sort of, let's just get rid of him, put him up for adoption, probably, presumably. So kind of like a combination of both, kind of what we were talking about of let's just get rid of this. But then at that point it ends up in the foster system, and he just didn't really have the best experience there, evidently had the worst experience there, right? I mean, that's just where, that's a theory my brain's going to right now.
Yeah, so in the 50s, obviously you're an unwed mother and you're having a child, that's super taboo, like you said.
Yeah.
Either you're gonna do it or you're not. Who are you gonna give this kid to? What are you gonna do? And what are the records when you give that kid up for adoption? So, if you're just gonna give that child to a family member, you would think there's some type of record or somebody would have said something, but clearly
something would have popped up. Yeah, so true.
You want to think that, but at the end of the day, I can't even imagine what pressure there was at that time if you were an unwed mother and
so true.
Were pregnant. Would you just give that baby to a coworker? What would you do?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. It's different now. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I wish that we knew more about these two too. like evidently they probably were just about the only two people in the world who knew this child existed, right? And
Yeah.
so like, and maybe not even the father, right? I mean, maybe it was just her, maybe it was just the mom that knew that this child existed, and so like, like it like limits it that much more. But then my brain goes to so let's say she did the right thing, right? And she just like she gave it up for adoption because like, whatever it is. Then again, my brain goes to, okay, well then it has to do with the foster system, that like the foster system like clearly abused him. The foster system clearly, someone in the foster system clearly, ended this poor boy's life. And so then they would have the motive to kind of just, like rip out that page in the book. You know what I mean? Of when the child was let in, any record of him ever being there. Like, that would make a good amount of sense.
Yeah, at the end of the day, somebody knows that
somebody knew
this child
Yeah.
belonged to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, they were the responsible, like, parent, guardian of this child. And nobody came forward.
Yeah, and you know what? You bring up a really good point there because, like, that's the thing that, like, really gets me mad about this case is that somebody should have been responsible for that child in some way, shape, or form. Somebody should have known where he was. If they were going off with somebody else, and this ended up being what happened to them, like, that person is just as responsible as the person who actually did it. Because if you are just going to, let it out of your mind, and then the child goes freaking missing, and the child ends up dead, and for 60 years you don't say anything, you're just as bad. And so to that point though, kind of what you're talking about is that if they didn't, it's just as bad. You know what I mean? Like, there's no good scenario, obviously, but like, the point that I'm trying to make here is that if there was somebody who was responsible for the child and they didn't come forward, it's just as bad as though, the child just slipped through the cracks somehow and nobody was responsible for the child and this still happened.
100%. 100%. Like,
getting hot.
Yeah, good. You should. Like, this is fucked up. Like, you should. So, I don't know, like, you're having a child, you can't take care of them, you want to put them up for adoption, you want to, whatever the case is, like, give them to a family member, like, whatever. Like, you still know where that child is. Like, you birthed them. That is your responsibility. You pass the responsibility to someone. Like, you know something. Like, for it to go on for a year, 40 years, 50 years, like, are you serious?
Right.
Like, somebody knows something. Like, more than somebody. Like, a lot of people know something.
And I could also just, like, in a totally different vein too, like, kind of the part that, like, gives me a little bit of hope here is the DNA testing, part of this whole thing. Like, the number of families whose lives have been, who have been able to let out this, like, giant breath of relief because they know something because of this kind of technology is remarkable. And so that's kind of like the silver lining in this entire case is that regardless of what happens, like, the fact that we're able to know this child's name 65 years later is a scientific miracle as far as I'm concerned, because that should not have, frankly, that shouldn't have been able to happen. And so I put a lot of credence into the investigators, into that medical examiner who didn't let go, they easily could have just, brushed it aside, put that file up at the top, put the money for the testing into more recent cases, cases that are more likely to be solved, and then everyone would have been happy. But as far as, everyone except for the one person who mattered, which is, Joseph. But like, they didn't have anybody, pressuring them to solve this case because, all the people who knew that he existed probably had something to do with them murdering him. So point being is I give a lot of credit to those investigators who did not let go. And I'm hopeful that, there are a lot of other cases out there just waiting to be solved because of this kind of technology. That's my soapbox.
100%. Like, I agree. Like, part of me wants to, like, go do 23andMe because, like, if somebody related to me and, like, my deep, dark ancestry is, like, a murderer, like, a bad person, like, Go get him.
The boy finally had his name given back to him, the name that was stolen from him at the end of his very short life. In January of this year, on what would have been Joseph's 70th birthday, the city revealed a tombstone at his final resting place that no longer donned America's unknown child, but instead the name that he had used for 4 years before he was brutally killed, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. But even though he has his name back, that's not the end of Joseph's story, and it simply can't be. The person who killed Joseph still has not been identified. The Philadelphia Police Department said detectives have a pretty good idea of who is likely responsible and still have an open investigation into Joseph's death. And they are just as determined to find out who killed him as they were to find out who he is. So, if you know anything about Joseph Zarelli's death, you're asked to call the Philadelphia Police Department at 215-686-TIPS or 215-686-8477. And we are also going to put that number on our website and in our show notes too.
So I've read enough of this story that I was so excited to talk about it with you, Liam, but at the same time, like, I didn't know anything until this break where his name was discovered, like, recently, this past couple of months. So, like, they found the parents of this child. Like, they know who the parents are. And, I mean, they're dead at this point. Like, there's not anything that can be done to, like, talk to them or find out what happened to this child. But apparently, the dad didn't know that this child existed. And the mom had apparently, like, given another daughter up for adoption before this child was born. So there's just so much uncertainty. And, like, in my head, you give a child up for adoption because you're not ready. You give another child up for adoption because you're not ready. You're like, good, kudos to you for, like, taking the right step when you're not ready to raise a child. But, like, somebody took these kids. Like, somebody accepted responsibility for these children, and something happened, whether it's the person who took responsibility for the children or somebody else that they passed them to. Like, somebody has to know something, and it's, like, just so heartbreaking to think that somebody took responsibility for these kids and just, like, let this happen or did this. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I have to imagine that, like, most of, like, the people who are supposed to be the adults in the room, right, are, like, probably, like, long gone at this point. My guess would be, only because, like, you know, like, Joseph would be 70 years old, right? And so, like anyone who is old enough to hurt him probably is, like, 90 plus kind of thing. And so, I don't know. I'm totally right there with you. That's the most, like, frustrating part about this whole entire case, is that there are so many people, you know, along the way who should have, you know, been the adults in the room. And they weren't, right? And so, like regardless of whether they did it themselves, again, like we were talking about before, regardless of whether they did it themselves or, you know, looked the other way when somebody else was doing it to them, or just didn't have their eyes on these children for long enough to know that they weren't being physically abused and possibly killed. And then when that child goes missing, when that child you see all the time, you know, goes missing, and for 60 years you don't say anything, evil. That's evil. That's the definition of evil. And, you know, it just drives me nuts that there were no adults that had any sort of idea of who this child was enough to be able to say something. And it just, that's not right. That's not right.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. This has gone on way too long. Like, too many people, like, met this kid. Like, there is no way that you hide a child.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Unwed mother, pregnant, I'm too young, like, I can't hide that from everyone. Like, just, okay, so I passed a child.
Yeah, how'd you even hide your, like, pregnancy? That's
and then I passed a child to somebody else, and they're like, oh, you never even looked pregnant. Like, how do you hide that from so many steps, and like nobody realizes that like no, the kid's gone. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It doesn't. It really, really doesn't. But you know, again, we're at a place where, you know, hopefully we are this close to answers. I feel like the identity is the thing, right? Because I think that at this point, if police are out there, you know, they did this whole shebang of, you know, announcing that they found the identity of this child. I can only imagine that they have been inundated with people saying, you know, more tips, even if 99% of them are crazy. It's that one, right? That's the only thing that you need to be like, that Zarelli kid, like there was something, and so that's all you need to be able to crack this thing. And so I hope they're able to do that through this whole thing.
I hope so. Literally, like that one person who thinks that they shouldn't speak up might be the one person who cracks this case and figures out whose custody that child was in, because somebody had custody of that child before they died.
Well, Jackie, that is all that we have for you this week. Thank you so much for coming on as you down the rest of that wine. This is why I love Jackie. This is why we need to have her on this podcast, because she just emptied that glass the rest of her bottle. So
sure did.
Empty. Love that. Well, it was so great to have you on. So we had such a great time talking about this and catching up and doing the whole thing. We'll have to have you on again for sure.
Honestly, I was literally hoping that you would ask me to come on again, because I have ideas for what our next case could be. I didn't want to push you on the first one. I'm you gave me this one that was yeah, perfect. This is a good idea. I like the boy in the box. I don't know enough about this. I'm ready to delve in, but I have ideas. So if you want to invite me on a second time, let's go.
We will schedule a Zoom call for sure to chat about all the ideas, because I am really curious to see what's going on in that brain right now.
I have a bajillion. You don't understand.
Okay.
If I wasn't having this Zoom call with you right now, I would just be watching a different case and not talking to you about it. So this is my every night thing. I drink wine. Okay. I watch true crime. So
she's a true crime over whiner. Love
yeah,
that.
If you and I are not going to talk about it, I'm just going to do it on my own. So
so might as well just come on. I'm looking for a permanent guest, permanent co-host.
Yeah, let me know when we have a date. I'm ready. Okay. I'm ready.
Let's do it. Well, thank you again so much for coming on, and thank you all so much for listening. We are going to put all of our sources on our website so you can read everything for yourself and probably come up with a few theories too. And if you are enjoying this podcast and are just wondering how you can tell anyone and everyone about it, the best way to help people find this podcast is by leaving us a 5-star review wherever you are listening right now. So make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we will see you next week for another episode of Crime Over Wine.
Proud member of the Podnuga Network.